Red corner. Wearing black with fuchsia and red trim. When he stepped on the scale, he weighed in at an official 145 and 1/2 pounds. Started from the bottom now. He enters the ring, an undefeated 3-division pound-for-pound king with 33 victories, 24 of those victories coming by way of KO. The former lightweight, former undisputed super lightweight, and tonight making the first defense of his WBO welterweight championship of the world. Born, bred, and repping Omaha, Nebraska, Terence Crawford.
Canelo Alvarez has not faced as educated.
Trying to come with a left uppercut.
See him lay on that left side.
Punching between punches and a flush.
We'll try to hurt him here.
Another big right hand by Canelo. The right hand lead against.
A superlight between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terence, but Crawford sounds like a boxing fan's dream. And for now, that's exactly what it is. After 3 days of chaos, walkbacks, swirling rumors, and hush-hush calls behind the scenes, the targeted September 13th clash at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas remains unconfirmed. But if both fighters sign the deal in the coming weeks, this wouldn't just be one of the biggest fights of 2025. It could be the most fragile blockbuster since Mayweather vs. Pacquiao. Here's the full story so far, and 5 major concerns that fans and insiders are already whispering about. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Like this video and subscribe. 98% of you watch without subscribing, and it seriously helps. Done? Awesome. Now, let's jump in. Before Canelo Alvarez can even think about Terence Crawford and Allegiant Stadium, he has a very real, and very risky, obstacle in front of him. An upcoming May showdown against undefeated IBF super middleweight champion William Skull. On paper, this fight is being marketed as a routine tune-up, part of Canelo's traditional Cinco de Mayo showcase. But behind the scenes, it's anything but routine. Skull might not be a household name outside hardcore boxing circles, but make no mistake, he's no easy out. The Cuban-born German fighter is coming off a brutal win over Vladimir Siskin and now holds the very IBF title Canelo once vacated while chasing bigger paydays against Edgar Berranger. Skull is not just hungry, he's proven, active, and carrying major momentum. Facing a generational star like Canelo only adds more fuel to his fire. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a stay-busy fight has turned into a high-risk, high-pressure situation. Here's where it gets tricky. Canelo needs this belt back. Reclaiming the IBF strap would restore his undisputed status at 168 pounds, making the Crawford fight even more historic. But boxing rarely sticks to the script. If the Skull fight turns into a war, if Canelo suffers a cut, a hand injury, or even a controversial decision, everything planned for September could be thrown into chaos. Canelo isn't getting younger. At this stage of his career, any grueling battle takes a toll that recovery time alone can't fix. Plus, there's the political reality. Skull is a mandatory challenger, and sanctioning bodies aren't keen on their champions cutting corners. If Canelo struggles or gets hurt, negotiations with Crawford could stall, reshuffle, or collapse entirely. This isn't just a fight. It's a tightrope walk that holds the entire super fight dream in the balance. One wrong exchange in May, and a $150 million mega event could vanish overnight. As for Terence "Bud" Crawford, for all his brilliance, the surgical precision, the switch-hitting genius, the mental domination, time is not on his side. Since 2020, Crawford has averaged just 1 fight per year, a pace that says as much about boxing's broken politics as it does about anything inside the ring. Much of the concern around Terence "Bud" Crawford isn't just about boxing politics. It's about his own career choices. While his victories, especially the surgical masterclass against Errol Spence Jr., have been emphatic, the long gaps between fights have only gotten louder. At 37 years old, Crawford is now older than Canelo, less active, and stepping into uncharted physical territory. After briefly touching 154 pounds, Bud is now aiming to jump all the way to 168. A division where fighters hit harder, clinch stronger, and absorb punishment very differently. This isn't just about moving up 2 weight classes. It's about challenging biology itself, not just boxing strategy. Fighters rarely thrive when skipping an entire division, especially not in their late 30s, when reflexes begin to dull and recovery slows down. Even with the benefit of a long training camp, the transition won't be easy. It's not just about adding muscle. It's about re-engineering a body that built its dominance on quick-twitch reflexes, razor-sharp timing, and perfect balance. At heavier weights, punches don't come faster, they come slower. And they land much harder. Will Bud still be the counterpunching genius at 168 that he was at 147? Or will the added weight dull his reactions just enough for Canelo to find his target? Then there's the mental toll of inactivity. Boxers live and die by rhythm. Time out of the ring doesn't just erode conditioning. It blunts timing, awareness, and that sixth sense fighters rely on. Crawford's instincts have always been elite, but even the sharpest instincts fade if they're not sharpened regularly. And stepping into the biggest fight of your life after a long layoff? That's a gamble even for a legend. Crawford has made a career out of defying the odds, beating politics, shutting down champions, and proving the doubters wrong. But this next leap isn't just historic. It's physically unprecedented in modern boxing. Without even a warm-up fight at super middleweight, he's diving straight into the fire. The real question isn't whether Bud Crawford is still great. It's whether greatness can survive the wait. Now, let's strip away the promotional smoke and ask the uncomfortable question. Why now? For years, Canelo Alvarez openly dismissed the idea of fighting Terence Crawford, pointing to the obvious, and very real, size difference. He has everything to gain and nothing to lose, Canelo said in 2023, explaining that the risk-to-reward ratio simply didn't add up. So what changed? 2 words: Turkic Alalshik. The Saudi advisor and combat sports powerbroker behind Riyadh season has flipped the entire industry upside down with blank check matchmaking. Reports say the offer to Canelo for this fight is around $150 million, a number too massive to ignore, even for a fighter who's already built generational wealth. When you're offered more for one night than you made across multiple world title defenses combined. Even the proudest champions listen. But the money is only part of the story. Quietly, Canelo has been playing a much bigger game. He's not just boxing's biggest cash cow. He's positioning himself to be its next true mogul. His promotional efforts are already gaining traction, managing rising stars like Tofino Lopez and former opponent Jamie Munguia. Canelo is no longer just chasing belts. He's chasing control. A win over Crawford wouldn't just silence critics or add another jewel to his crown. It would dramatically boost his value as a promoter, a brand, and a power broker. The more historic his legacy becomes inside the ring, the more leverage he gains outside of it, with networks, sponsors, and fighters. It's the Oscar de la Hoya blueprint all over again, using the twilight years of a fighting career to build an empire. So while the public sees Canelo versus Crawford as a super fight for legacy, the deeper truth is this: is it really about proving something inside the ring, or building something much bigger outside of it? At his peak at 147 pounds, Terence Crawford looked untouchable, slicing through champions, switching stances mid-fight, and mentally and physically dismantling the best the division had to offer. But the last time we saw him at 154. When Terence Bud Crawford moved up to 154 pounds, the aura of invincibility didn't vanish, but it definitely shifted. He was still dominant, still brilliant, but the physical margin for error became noticeably thinner. Now, what he's attempting is downright unprecedented. A leap 4. Junior middleweight straight to super middleweight, bypassing an entire division, to face one of the most seasoned, battle-hardened, power-punching champions of this generation. Even Crawford himself has acknowledged the steep climb. "I walk around heavier than people think," he once told Boxing Scene. But as he also admitted, walking around at 170 pounds isn't the same as fighting for 12 championship rounds at 168, especially against a fighter who's lived in that division for over a decade. Crawford's greatness has never been about brute strength. His style is built on subtlety, on sharp reactions, deceptive rhythm shifts, and surgical timing. At 168 pounds, where punches may come slower but hit far harder, and clinch strength becomes critical, Crawford's entire toolkit will be stress-tested. Can he maintain his speed while adding mass? Will his footwork suffer? Will his stamina hold up under the strain of a heavier, re-engineered body? The cautionary tale is clear. Roy Jones Jr., whose historic move to heavyweight earned him glory, but wrecked his physiology once he came back down. Jones was never the same. Could Crawford, at 37, be standing at the edge of a similar sacrifice? With no warm-up fight at 168 to test the waters, he's going from elite technician to scientific experiment in a matter of months, and there's no undo button if the gamble fails. This super fight might be a once-in-a-generation spectacle. But it's also creating a massive traffic jam across two entire weight classes, and the ripple effects are already being felt throughout the sport. Let's start at 154 pounds. Crawford was just one win away from potentially unifying the division. A bout with WBC and WBO champion Sebastian Fundora was within reach, possibly followed by a winter clash with Bakram Murtazaliev. Had he gone that route, Crawford could have made history as the first male fighter in the four-belt era to become undisputed in 3 different weight classes. Now, that legacy-defining path is on ice, and if the Canelo fight consumes the rest of 2025, it may be lost forever. At 168 pounds, things are even messier. Canelo's road was already packed before Crawford entered the picture. David Benavidez, arguably the most avoided man in the division, has been campaigning for a shot at Canelo for years. Young lions like Diego Pacheco and Christian Billy are knocking loudly at the door. Mandatory obligations like William Skull, already scheduled for May, are piling up. And then there's the looming heavyweight clash. If Dmitry Bivol defeats Art Beterbiev in their highly anticipated February rematch, a historic second showdown between Bicol and Canelo for light heavyweight supremacy could be on the table, but only if Canelo gets past Crawford without damage. Here's the big problem. If anything delays or derails Canelo versus Crawford, an injury, a contract dispute, or just boxing's usual chaos, 2 full weight classes and half a dozen top contenders are stuck waiting, their careers frozen for months or even a year until the dust settles. It's the classic boxing paradox. To create one legendary moment, you might have to freeze an entire sport. And here's where business and boxing collide head-on. According to multiple insiders, when the idea of Canelo versus Crawford first surfaced behind closed doors, Team Alvarez allegedly floated a staggering $150 million price tag, not as a serious asking price, but as a deterrent. It was a financial firewall, a polite way of saying, this fight isn't happening. After all, asking for that kind of money, even more than Canelo made for his biggest fights against. When Canelo Alvarez faced names like Golovkin, Caleb Plant, and even Dmitry Bivol, it sent a subtle but clear message. He wasn't eager to face a smaller, faster opponent, someone who could outshine him even in victory. The massive $150 million price tag his team floated for a Terence Crawford fight wasn't a real offer. It was a bluff, a financial escape hatch designed to politely kill the idea before it could gain traction. And then came Turki Alalshik, the mastermind behind Saudi Arabia's combat sports revolution. Armed with oil-backed sovereign wealth and an unlimited budget, Alalshik didn't negotiate. He matched the number instantly. Suddenly, the unthinkable was real. A Canelo versus Crawford fight, backed by a check so large even Canelo couldn't walk away. Was this pure matchmaking? Or a calculated move to reshape a legacy? Was Canelo smartly turning a risky, damned if you do, damned if you don't fight into a guaranteed jackpot? Or was this genius-level chess, forcing boxing's biggest payday to set the rules of engagement on his terms? No matter how you frame it, Canelo is about to get paid like it's peak Mayweather season. And for better or worse, Saudi Arabia's new business model has officially rewritten the rules of boxing matchmaking. But as anticipation builds, so do the warnings, especially from those who know what it's like to be in the trenches. Timothy Bradley, a former 2-division world champion turned respected analyst, delivered one of the most sobering takes on what Crawford is walking into. He's not going to back down, Bradley said of Bud. And that's what scares me. Because here's the brutal truth. Canelo isn't just skilled, He's naturally strong, and has been living at 168 pounds for a long, long time. In other words, this isn't just about skill, it's about survival. Crawford's brilliance lies in his adaptability, the way he can flip a fight on a dime. But at his core, Bud is a dog. He loves to fight back when challenged. And against a natural super middleweight like Canelo, a man who throws body shots like bricks and has mastered the art of cutting off the ring, that warrior instinct could become a trap. If Crawford gets drawn into a fight, if he decides to trade in the pocket against a bigger, stronger man who's knocked out light heavyweights, it could be lights out before Bud even has time to find his rhythm. The real question is, can Crawford stay disciplined? Or will the dog inside him answer the wrong call at the wrong time? When the greats can't even agree, you know the fight is real. From heavyweight legends to current champions, the boxing world is buzzing, and there's not a single consensus. Mike Tyson says Canelo's too big, too strong. Crawford's great, Tyson said, but size matters in boxing. Meanwhile, Shakur Stevenson believes Bud's IQ is simply too high, that he'll find a way to outthink and outmaneuver Canelo when it matters most. Even legendary minds can't agree on how this fight will unfold. Teddy Atlas believes it could end brutally, just like Kell Brook's ill-fated war against Gennady Golovkin. Andre Ward thinks Crawford's movement and ring IQ could give Canelo nightmares. Roy Jones Jr. sees Canelo's relentless pressure and thudding power eventually breaking Crawford down. When legends, across eras, weight classes, and styles, are this evenly divided, you know the fight is special. It's combustible. It's a clash of everything: styles, generations, narratives, and legacies. One punch could decide it. One round could flip the whole story. Of course, we're still about 7 months out, and if boxing history teaches anything, it's to stay cautious. A bad cut in sparring, a last-minute contract snag, a cold-footed camp, it wouldn't take much for the whole event to collapse. Remember Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua in 2018? Sometimes, even the biggest fights never make it to the ring. But if this one holds together, if both men stay healthy, if the ink dries on the right contracts, if May's warm-up fights don't throw a wrench into the machine, then what we're looking at isn't just the biggest boxing event of 2025. It's the biggest real fight since Mayweather versus Pacquiao. No exhibitions. No YouTubers. No gimmicks. Just two all-time greats meeting at the absolute edge of their physical and mental limits. Greatness chasing greatness. Moments like this don't come around often. Now it's your turn. Who wins this fight? Is Canelo ducking? Or playing high-stakes chess? Does Crawford's body betray him at 168? Or does he pull off the impossible? Drop your predictions in the comments below. And circle September 13th on your calendars, because if this one lands, history isn't just being made, it's being rewritten. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like this video to support the channel, subscribe to Boxing Edge for the latest updates, fight breakdowns, and expert analysis, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.